Place your hand over your ear for a moment. Just for a second. Close your eyes. Listen to the silence. Do you hear it? That faint, high-pitched hum. That subtle buzzing that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. For decades, modern society has given us a very specific definition for this phenomenon. They call it a defect. They call it tinnitus. They tell us it is a medical error, a misfiring of neurons, or simply the sound of the body aging. We are conditioned to believe that any sensation that cannot be immediately explained by a textbook must be a malfunction. But what if that is not the only way to read it? What if the sound isn't a sign that your ears are broken, but a sign that something else is working perfectly? What if the noise is actually information? In December of 1945, near the cliffs of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, a peasant made a discovery that fundamentally shifted our understanding of ancient history. Inside a sealed jar, buried for nearly 2,000 years, were manuscripts known as the Gnostic Gospels. These texts, which date back to the earliest centuries of the Common Era, present a view of reality that is radically different from the one we are taught in schools or churches. Within these pages, there is a specific discussion about the nature of sound, vibration, and the human body. The Gnostics did not view the ringing in the ears as a condition to be cured. They viewed it as a signal to be understood. To understand why this perspective matters, we must first define the core concept found in texts like the Apocryphon of John and explore why this specific knowledge was considered so dangerous that it had to be hidden in the desert for millennia. We have been taught to believe that the physical world is the only thing that matters. We are taught that if you cannot touch it, if you cannot see it, it is not real. But the Gnostic masters, those who walked the desert millennia ago, described reality much like modern quantum physicists do today. They defined the universe not as solid matter, but as a hierarchy of vibrations. At the very top, they described the monad. This term does not refer to a personified God with human emotions, jealousy, or judgment, but to the source of pure consciousness, the infinite potential from which all existence flows. It is the silent static from which the music of the universe is composed. Below the monad, reality becomes denser and heavier, eventually forming the material world we inhabit. According to this cosmology, the material world operates on a dense, low frequency. It is a realm of entropy, distraction, and noise. It is designed to be heavy. However, the texts suggest that the monad emits a constant, high-frequency resonance, a carrier wave that permeates all of existence. This wave is not sound in the acoustic sense. It is a frequency of information. The ringing sound, in this historical context, was defined as the transmission. It was seen as the physical sensation of the body's energy field interacting with this higher frequency. It is the friction of a higher vibration entering a denser field. Imagine a spacecraft re-entering the atmosphere. As it hits the dense air, it creates heat and sound. It vibrates. It shakes. The same thing happens when high-frequency data from the source hits the dense reality of your physical body. The ringing you hear is the friction of higher truth entering a lower density environment. The medical world can only examine the hardware. They look at the eardrum, the cochlea, the auditory nerve, and often they find nothing wrong. Because the sound isn't coming from the ear. It is coming from the interaction between your energy field and the signal. It is a symptom of resonance, not disease. This brings us to the mechanism of human perception described in these ancient philosophies. The Gnostic teachers divided human consciousness into three distinct categories based on how they processed this reality. This was not a judgment of value, but an observation of focus and energetic capacity. It is similar to how we might classify radios based on the frequencies they can receive. The first category was called the Hylics. These were described as individuals completely identified with the material world. Their focus is entirely on the external, what can be touched, bought, and consumed. They live, they work, they eat, and they die, without ever questioning what exists beyond visible reality. Their reality is defined by the five senses alone. In this state of consciousness, the subtle frequencies of the monad are inaudible because the internal receiver is not tuned to them. To a Hylic perspective, silence is simply the absence of noise. If you try to explain the buzzing to them, they will immediately suggest a medical intervention. They cannot perceive what they cannot measure. Their system is closed. The second category was the Psychics. This refers to the intellect and the rational mind. These individuals perceive reality through logic, dogma, and established rules. They might study spirituality as a concept, but they do not experience it as a sensation. The connection exists, but it is intermittent, often drowned out by the constant analysis of the mind. They might feel a shiver during a song, or a moment of awe at a sunset, but the signal does not stay. It is easily interrupted by worldly concerns. They are the philosophers who talk about the water but never get wet. The third category was the Pneumatics. The word comes from pneuma, meaning spirit or breath. The texts describe the Pneumatics as those who possess an innate sensitivity to the unseen. For these individuals, the barrier between the material and the immaterial is thinner. They are often the ones who feel the emotions of others, who sense the atmosphere of a room the moment they walk in. The mechanism of the ringing, therefore, is described as the pneumatic consciousness picking up the broadcast of the monad. It is not an error in the ear. It is the operational hum of a heightened state of awareness. The Gospel of Philip, one of the texts found at Nag Hammadi, speaks of those who possess ears beyond ears, an ability to perceive what lies beyond the physical world. For centuries, scholars have interpreted this as a metaphor. But the Gnostics were not speaking metaphorically. They were describing a literal physical experience that certain individuals experience in their bodies. But why does this phenomenon seem to be increasing? Why do so many people report this experience today without having any medical explanation? The Gnostic texts offer a theory. They speak of the demiurge, a metaphorical architect of the material world who seeks to keep consciousness trapped in low-frequency loops of fear and desire. In modern terms, we might understand the demiurge as the system of entropy or the chaotic nature of unguided existence. The demiurge and his helpers, the Archons, are described as thriving on low-vibration energy. Fear, confusion, and despair are their sustenance. Every system created to keep humanity in these states serves this mechanism of control. Think about the world we live in. It is designed to capture attention and generate anxiety. The news cycle, the endless scrolling, the constant comparison. It creates a static field of low-frequency energy. But here is the crucial point. The Archons cannot perceive the frequency of the monad. It is too high, too pure, far beyond their operational range. When a person interprets the ringing in their ears as a sickness, when they react with anxiety and fear, they are unknowingly lowering their frequency to match the realm of the Archons. They are engaging with the noise rather than the signal. However, when one reframes the sound, when one understands it through the Gnostic lens as a sign of alignment, the effect changes. The fear dissipates. The anxiety is replaced by curiosity. The mechanism of control is broken. You stop feeding the system with your fear, and you start feeding your spirit with the signal. The texts from Nag Hammadi go even further, categorizing the sound into different types of signals. Not all ringing is the same. Based on the detailed conversations recorded in the Pistis Sophia, we can categorize this mechanism into 3 distinct frequencies. Understanding the nuance of each tone allows the individual to respond appropriately. turning a passive annoyance into an active tool for navigation. The first is the awakening tone. This is described as a sharp, sudden pitch that interrupts the flow of thought. Historically, this was interpreted as a stop command. It usually happens in one ear specifically, often the left, but not always. It lasts for a few seconds, maybe a minute, and then fades. It feels like someone just turned on a high-pitched oscillator in your head. This frequency serves to break a pattern. Think about when this happens. Usually, you are lost in thought. Maybe you are worrying about the future or replaying an argument from the past. You are stuck in the linear time of the material world. You are spiraling. Suddenly, the tone strikes. It stops you. It pulls you into the present moment. The monad uses this tone to flag a thought or a moment. Whatever you were thinking right before the tone started is important. Or, conversely, whatever you were thinking was a deception, and the tone is trying to snap you out of it. It is a cosmic red light, forcing you to pause and reassess your mental trajectory. The second is the sustained tone. This is the low, steady hum often heard in deep silence or meditation. Unlike the awakening tone which interrupts, the sustained tone accompanies. It acts as a carrier wave. The mechanism here is alignment. When you hear this, it means your vibration has successfully matched the baseline frequency of the monad. You are in the zone. This is not a call to action. It is a confirmation of state. It means your energetic immune system is active. You are connected. This is the optimal state to receive guidance, to access knowledge that transcends the rational mind, to download information directly from the source. It is the background music of the universe, confirming that you are in harmony with the flow of life. When this tone is present, intuition is heightened and clarity is readily available. The third is the pressure tone. This often feels less like a sound and more like a fullness. You might feel like your ears are underwater, or feel a physical pressure in the center of your forehead or the top of your head. This is the activation signal. In the esoteric traditions, this somatic sensation is linked to the activation of the higher centers of perception, what some traditions call the third eye. It suggests an upgrade in the capacity to process information. Something in your energy system is being updated. Something dormant is being awakened. A tone of pressure often precedes major spiritual breakthroughs, spontaneous healings, or expansions in perception. It is a sign that a profound transformation is underway. The physical body is adjusting to hold more light, more data, and more consciousness. It can be uncomfortable, just as growing pains are uncomfortable, but it is a necessary part of the evolution of the soul. So, how did the ancients suggest one should interact with this phenomenon? The instruction was never to worship the sound, nor to fear it. The practice was one of active listening. The technique described in the oral traditions involves 3 steps. The first step is recognition. Before any work with frequencies can be effective, you must establish your perspective. Instead of trying to ignore the sound or drown it out with background noise, the individual is encouraged to acknowledge it. By simply shifting the mental label from noise to signal, the subjective experience of the sound changes. It often becomes clearer and less intrusive. You consciously engage with the tone. Most people try to push it away. They turn on the TV. They play music. They do anything to avoid the silence. But the practice invites you to do the opposite. When the tone arrives, don't push it away. Direct all your attention to it, not with frustration, but with curiosity, with welcome. Treat it like a guest who has something important to tell you. The second step is engagement. The practitioner focuses their entire attention on the pitch itself, using it as an anchor for meditation. Just as one might focus on the breath, focusing on the internal sound bypasses the analytical mind. It creates a feedback loop of pure presence. As you focus on the tone, something remarkable happens. The frequency begins to clear. The static diminishes. What seemed to be just random noise reveals itself as a signal carrying information. It becomes a thread that you can follow back to the source. The mind stops wandering because it is occupied with the task of listening to the unlistenable. The third step is declaration. This involves a shift in identity. The Gnostic aim was gnosis, which means direct knowledge. By listening to the frequency, the practitioner reminds themselves that they are not merely a physical body subject to decay, but a spark of the eternal monad experiencing a physical reality. They silently affirm their connection to the source. The ancient texts suggest using a phrase of recognition, stating clearly to oneself, "I am the sign." These words are not magic spells. They are a method of psychological anchoring. They collapse the separation between you and the source. They remind your entire system of what has always been. And when spoken in a state of attention while focused on the sound frequency, they create a resonance that anchors you in a permanent connection. You are effectively tuning your radio dial to the station of your higher self. The effect of this practice, according to the texts, is a profound sense of detachment from the chaos of the world. The dramas of society, the push and pull of politics, and the endless cycle of consumption begin to lose their emotional grip. The individual becomes in the world, but not of it. This is not depression. It is not a disorder. It is the pneumatic experience of being awake in a sleeping world. The things that used to trigger you will start to feel distant. They won't make you angry anymore. They will just seem irrelevant. Like a TV show you are no longer interested in. This is the energy system disconnecting from the lower frequencies of the Archons. You are no longer supplying them with your emotional energy. You become a sovereign entity, fueled by an internal source rather than external validation. Furthermore, practitioners report an acceleration of synchronicities. Within hours or days of engaging with the sound, significant coincidences tend to multiply. People will contact you at the exact right moment. The information you need will appear without searching. Doors will open that you didn't even know existed. This is because you are aligning with the monadic frequency, stepping out of the chaotic randomness of the material world and into a stream of coherence. You are moving with the current of the universe rather than swimming against it. The sound itself may also evolve. What previously seemed like a random buzz will begin to seem intentional. You will notice that it arrives at significant moments. You will begin to understand its language without anyone teaching you. It becomes a personal guidance system, alerting you to truth and falsehood in real time. However, a warning is often given regarding this process. The moment you begin this practice, resistance will arise. Not from outside, but from within your own mind. Thoughts will appear that seem to be yours, but are not. Thoughts saying this is foolishness. Thoughts saying nothing happened. Thoughts urging you to forget what you learned and return to normal life. This is not failure, it is confirmation. The systems of control cannot allow you to access the monad's frequency without attempting to interfere. Their resistance is proof that what you are doing is working. Do not argue with these thoughts. Do not fight them. Simply observe them and return to the signal. The sound is always there. The monad is always transmitting. Your only task is to continue tuning in. The implications of this understanding are vast. If the Gnostics were right, then the human body is far more than a biological machine. It is a piece of advanced technology capable of receiving data from dimensions beyond our physical senses. The ringing in the ears is the most basic function of this technology coming online. It is the standby light blinking, indicating that power is flowing. This historical perspective offers a powerful alternative to the modern medical view. It suggests that the buzzing in the ears is not a sign that something is broken, but a sign that the system is functioning exactly as it was designed. It is a reminder that the human instrument is capable of receiving more than just the visible spectrum of reality. We live in a time of unprecedented noise. We are bombarded by information, notifications, and demands for our attention. We are constantly pulled out of ourselves, directed towards products, ideologies, and fears. In such a world, the internal signal acts as a compass. It is a frequency that cannot be hacked, faked, or corrupted. It is a direct line to the core of who we are. So, the next time the silence speaks, consider the possibility that it is not an error. Consider the possibility that it is an invitation to look inward, to tune out the static of the material world, and to listen to the broadcast that has been playing since the beginning of time. This ancient wisdom invites us to reconsider our relationship with our own bodies and our own minds. It challenges us to ask whether we are merely biological machines, or whether we are sophisticated receivers of a universal consciousness. The answer may not be found in a book or a video, but in the silence between your thoughts, carried on a frequency that only you can hear. Listen closely. The transmission is active.